let's start with the Ryanair chase, because I think it's very open this year. Doesn't sort of reek class and excitement. But let's start with Mark. His view on this race. Last year, it was won by Imperial Commander, of course, who Paddy rides in the Gold Cup. Voi Porostedis was second. He's in the race. I mean, he's 16-1. Is there any sort of form of value there, or is he gone?
No, I think he's gone, Robert. I think he's run these French horses who come over. You know, Paddy was alluding to it earlier about long run being 5. I think a lot of the French horses, you know, come over, they start scoring poles. It's a good thing out in France as the trainer says you either jump or you're on the dinner table tonight. It's a bit of an incentive for the fuckers to jump, isn't it? I think he's gone for Porostedis. I can't have him at any price. I won't back him at 100-1, to be honest. I think this race, again, Imperial Commander, we see won the Paddy Power and then wanted to win the Ryanair. I think the two horses who are first and second in the Paddy Power this year are fighting it out. Tranquil Sea and Poquelin. I backed them both. Poquelin would be much, much better on better ground. He went on then to win the Boyle Sports, franked the form even more. I think they're great prices, the pair of them. I think Poquelin will probably get his revenge on better ground. Again, best fresh, as we keep saying all along about horses having a long, long break. Andy Stewart said straight after the Boyle Sports, we won't see it again until the Ryanair. By the time they run this, the ground will quicken up by then, I should imagine. And I think that'll give him the edge over Tranquil Sea. I think they're the only two runners, to be honest with you, Bob. I don't think it's hard at all.
Barbershop, would you have?
Oh, he's a dodge pot. He's a dodge. You know, Nicky Henderson doesn't put blinkers on many horses. He's got cheap pieces on this horse. I backed him in the NSC. I stood for the 3-card trick, and he didn't want to know. He got upside Denman every time he got the Denman. Denman went away from him. I don't think he wanted to know. Jumping the last, I thought he's not going to stay. And then he ran on past Niche Market, who of course is an Irish Grand National winner. And again, he watched the King George, and he was travelling really well in the King George barbershop. The only one travelling with Coulter on the home bend. And again, once he had to really guts it, he just didn't want to know. He finished out the running. I think he's a dodge. I wouldn't have him.
Because after he finished second behind you on Imperial Commander in the Paddy Power a couple of years ago, he looks certain he's going to win a few races, but he hasn't won since.
The only race he won, Bob, was again as Andrew and I was Agabravani, wasn't it? Your mate at Sandown. Again, that was a 4-runner race, and he got things his own way. And he looked like he was going to bolt up that day and didn't really want to know. Did he?
It was a farcical race as well. There was no pace, and I think the second and third favourite were running under the wrong conditions as well.
I think he's one of them again for inland planners. He'll travel and you want to land because he's a dodge. Again, Imperial beat him at Cheltenham and he looked like he was going to beat him, and Imperial had more guts in him up the hill. He's a real screw for me, Barbershop. Again, why does Nicky Henderson put cheap pieces on him?
Tranquil Sea. I mean, he was very impressive last time.
I just said it's a 2-runner race. You're not listening?
No, I am listening.
Yeah, definitely. He, for me, is a big player. I just think when it won the Paddy Power, it was really, really soft ground in November. I think the faster ground, Poquelin, I hope Poquelin will get his revenge. I'm not 100% certain, so I've had a big bet on Poquelin and saved on Tranquil Sea. I think that's the form line, Bob.
What price were you on Poquelin?
I was on him at 11-2. He's still about 9-2. He hasn't shortened much, I thought he might do. But yeah, I think it's between them two.
My problem with Tranquil Sea is that he's disappointed at the last two festivals. He was 6th in the Gibson last year, and 8th in the Supreme the year before that. And both times he'd had a fairly recent run in February. And I just wonder, he's done that again this year, and I just wonder if he's left his race behind.
I could watch you the video with the juice, and Andrew made a horrendous mistake. I was on him. Again, Edward O'Grady, first time in handicap, and I think it'd have been really close if he hadn't made that terrible mistake. I spoke to Edward about it the other night, and he said he wanted to get a run into him before Cheltenham because he thought he was, again, all Edward's horses wasn't that right all over the Cheltenham. Alavan got beat, Osana got beat, and he got beat. And he thought he had Poquelin to beat the other night, Edward.
Alberta's Run is a funny sort of horse, isn't he? Because he is a Cheltenham winner. He won at Ascot. He was second last time at Ascot behind Monet's Guard. How do you see him running, Paddy?
Yeah, I don't think he's good enough, to be honest. I think Poquelin at the prices, I think he's my best bet of the meeting. I think.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I fancy him big time. He's like Razor Royal finished second to him in the Boyle Sports, and he went on to win the race in Post Chase, and he didn't just beat him, like he slaughtered him, and I think he's as I say, at the value, he's my best bet of the meeting.
I think it was Paddy again because it's slightly better ground in the Boyle Sports than it was the Paddy Power, wasn't it? I remember speaking to the owner Andy, and he said Ruby said he was much better on this better ground, but when he gets really fast ground, he said he'd be a real machine. I think he's a Gold Cup horse next year, Poquelin, by the way, if you want to have a mad bet at 150 at one or something. I think
So 9-2, Mark. That's a fair price for the public to take.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've had a really good bet on him. I think he's a great price. And again, I think Tranquil Sea, because he's beaten him, I look at the form book and I take on everything Andrew says. I think Poquelin will beat him. But I think there's only one other danger in this race. And again, although we haven't been going for that long, it is a bit of a trends race, isn't it? You know, we've got these Paddy Power ball sports. They do go on to win it, don't they? You know?
Yeah, that's right. Course winners have got a good record, I believe.
Always does with
I think with
Cheltenham,
Poquelin as well in the Paddy Power, he was a big drifter, wasn't he? I think he was.
It was the ground again.
Yeah, he was 12 to 1 on the day compared to 11 to 2 for Tranquil Sea.
And if you remember, like the rain come that day, didn't it? And there was rumours that Andy said in the paper he wasn't going to run him. And again, that was just in fact that back to the ground. But as again, get back to Cheltenham, it sort of dried out in the afternoon, didn't it? Literally in a couple of hours. And I spoke to Andy after the race, and he said he won, even though it hated the ground. If you go back to October, Poquelin actually won at Cheltenham in October on decent ground, and he pissed up. He absolutely travelled like a dream. It was a weaker race, but he really did travel on that good ground, and he was an ex-French horse, and again, flat-bred, and who wants decent ground.
Gary, I mean, from what we hear, Poquelin looks like he may well go off favourite.
Yeah, 9-2 each to 2. That's the best prices in the village there. Poquelin, Tranquil Sea. We've got the book here tonight. He might last 2 to 1 combined. You never know. They've had a few drinks. If we can smarten them up here, 2 to 1 Poquelin and Tranquil. You'll be a punter there, Mark, wouldn't you? 2 to 1, the two of them together combined.
You know me, Gav. When I really fancy two, I sort of have a chunk on one at 9-2 and just get my stake back on the other one. I don't think there's anything in that, rather than each way, especially if they fall or whatever.
Well, if Barbershop, you don't fancy Barbershop, buy that, it's like 12 bar 2, so
yes,
9-2 each to 2 in the morning. I think I'll be knocking at Joe Coral's door, bit of a 9-2 each to 2.
I'm going to post today about, you know, on the Wednesday before Cheltenham, taking the price now, non-runner, no bet. 28 races at Cheltenham last year, 26 of the SPs, that was longer on today than it was actually at the festival. That's a massive, isn't it? 26 out of 28. Take a price now, non-runner, no bet. Anything could happen. These horses could get struck by lightning, as we've seen with Solwit. I'm not joking. You know, Solwit, you know, has been injured. I'll guarantee you that before Cheltenham's run next Tuesday, there'll be 2 or 3 fancied horses in the races who won't turn up, will there? That's what happens. So take the non-runner, no bet. Today, 26 out of 28 races. The price now, the best price now is better than it was SP. That's massive, isn't it?
Gavin?
Not a strong opinion here, to be fair. I think this race is carnage. I think it's, once again, if you're figuring out a handicap, they're all weighted very close. Poquelin, obviously, he's not a horse I like, to be fair, and he'll obviously go
Why?
well. Just never have liked him at all. He has improved this year. What the worth for the form is, I don't know, but quite often with the Ryanair, the form doesn't, you know, you go into the race and the form, you know, there's not a lot to go on. Horses going up in trip, down in trip, all trips. For me in this race, if I had to have a play, I'd have a small stab each way on Planet of Sound. I know he can't jump at all. But I think Hobbs has always said it's the best horse.
Wouldn't that be a bit of a
got.
minus, not being able to jump?
Well, yeah, maybe, but maybe. But I think it's going to be a 7 or 8 runner field. Hopefully, he can just jump him round.
I'll tell you something, like in that race, the ambulance men will have their binoculars on Dickie Johnson, wouldn't they? Here we go, boys, bit of work here.
But Hobbs has always said it's the best horse he's got, and it's his stable flag bearer. And he tipped up early the other day at Ascot, but he should be fresh for this. And at 12 to 1, he's a bit of value.
Just going back, Paddy, I mean, you're obviously very keen on Poquelin. I mean, you finished second behind him on Razor Royal. You've beaten 7 lengths or so. Is it then that from that point onwards you've liked him, or is he a horse you've always thought a lot of?
Yeah, obviously I've ridden all the races he's running, but it was actually the Paddy Power I was most impressed with him. He was in a pulling up situation at the top of the hill. Ruby was obviously, he wasn't going the ground, and the ground he made up was phenomenal. And I just think he's a lot better horse than Tranquil Sea, and I don't see a lot else in the race, to be honest.
I like the sound of that.
Just interrupting, Bob. There was money yesterday. I just see a Petite Robin was back to he loaded 20,000 or 1,400 Paddy Power, and he's now 12 to 1 from 14 Petite Robin for the Ryanair.
You couldn't really fancy him. I mean, he was walloped by Twist Magic, wasn't he, at Ascot?
I think it's one of them, Bob, who's again another who's talking about it to me every race, who's best fresh for me. I think Andrew backed me up with Petit Robin, wasn't it, Andrew? It's John Poynton's horse, isn't it? Is it Andrew?
Is that the one that won first time out at Kempton this year?
He won at Newbury the year before, if you remember, on NSC Day. Again, I've heard rumours that the horse burst blood vessels. Were beaten in the champion chase last year. I'm not certain they get the trip. I just think Nicky Henderson's looked at him, thought, I can't win the champion chase, I'd have a pop at the Ryanair, nothing else to run him in, too high in the handicaps, give him a throw and hope he runs well. That's the way I look at it.